Yo, what up? So, episode 4 with Davidson Hang. So yeah, this is gonna be a longer one. I just wanted to kind of share what I'm up to and just some reflections on life. This will be good though. This will help me be able to post content every day, because I know that's one of my goals, to get outside my comfort zone, review more of myself, and just practice vulnerability. Car rides with Davidson, episode 4. Let's go. Yeah, today was a lot of fun. I got to see Mahima, Adam, and Albert, who I used to work with, who I recruited over to Coach Hub. So that was a blast. I got to hang out with my, I noticed, Mahima was talking about like how she loves remote work and how that was like very attractive for her at Coach Hub. And it's funny because for me, it seems like more people actually like the remote work than they do having to go into the office, but I'm clearly the opposite. So that's just funny how that works, right? Okay, there you go, that's better. Yeah, so today was a good day. Made over $100 from Instacart and DoorDash, which is nice. Nice to get a little bit extra cash that could spend on like romantic dates with my wife. So the topics that I'm gonna discuss with you today is around just like fulfillment, how to go about choosing your next career path. So hopefully I get to hear good news within the next couple weeks, so stay tuned for social media. I'm sure I'll be those announcements. I'll be posting, so check it out. Anyways, I think this past 3 years have taught all of us a lot. We were kind of forced to, for context, this is June of 2023, so it's been over 3 years since the pandemic started. And I don't know about you guys, but the last three years and 3 months have been definitely the hardest, but also the most eye-opening. And I'm not sure if it's just what you go through in your 30s, like that's just like what happens when you go from 32 to 35, or it's just the timing of the pandemic, maybe a little bit of both. But a lot of soul searching, a lot of figuring out like, hey, what makes me happy? Should I double down on my career? Like, should I have kids, marriage? Should I buy a house? Where do I want to live for the rest of my life? All of these topics that are no one really, I feel like, they don't really talk about that in school, right? Like when you're in high school, middle school, everyone's just like, hey, get a job, go to college. But people aren't like, hey, does it make sense to have a kid? Where do you live for the rest of your life? Like it's just like, hey, memorize these things, learn how to add and subtract, which obviously is important. But what about people skills? What about empathy? What about emotional intelligence? What about the meaning of life, right? Yes, in college you have some of that, right? But that's more through trial and error. It's less through taking a class on it. Like I took one leadership class and that was awesome, but there's not really like a leadership major in college. There's business, which I think half of it is important, obviously, P&Ls and finance and projection models and macroeconomics and stuff like that. But what about like really important things, like how to balance a checkbook, how to read different personality types, like how to network, how to be a more persuasive, like how to write copy. You write all these articles and stuff, or these papers, but half of that stuff is not even relevant to the real world. So yeah, Oh, that's funny. I'm on Lover's Lane. So I always love being on Lover's Lane. I think that's such a cool street name. But yeah, so reflection point. Think about, your legacy. Think about what activities made you most happy at work. Was it the fulfillment of achieving something that you didn't think was possible? Was it who you had to become to get promoted to enterprise account executive or mid-market account executive? Is it worth it for me to sacrifice time with my family so that I could further my career? And then what are you going to do with that money? Is it I get to travel the world, or I get to provide a security for my friends and family and my wife and my kids? All great food for thought. It's an interesting concept. Silence. That was always very difficult for me. Being in stillness, like still now to this day, even though I've had many hours of practice through meditation, through silent retreats, through reflection, introspection time, especially after being laid off, and even when I left on my own, when I left Udemy without a job, definitely had a lot of time to reflect. Totally going off on a tangent here, but if you guys haven't checked out Baby Monster yet, they're this Korean girl pop group, this band that's coming out that's supposed to be like the next Blackpink. Super talented. Check it out. You will not, if you haven't heard of them, you will not be disappointed. They're amazing. And I'm trying to think why I love listening. I don't know about you guys, but anytime you get inspired by like really talented people, whether it's like a really talented magician or artist or poet, it's hard to not see some of that within yourself. Like, hey, maybe that's possible for me. Maybe I don't have to be as famous, right? But there's a part of me that feels that greatness, that wants to strive for that excellence, to really make that difference in the world. And I think that's quite inspiring. That's why I always love listening to and being around greatness, right? Whether it's reading Tiger Woods' biography, Andre Agassi's a good one, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Marie Sharapova. Chris Bosch, surprisingly, is a really, really good book. Shout out to Daniel for getting that for me. You're the man. Feel free to post in the comments what books have made a huge difference for you. The last couple books one of the books I'm reading right now, my mentor recommended a bunch of books by Steve Chandler, where he talks about it's more for coaches, but it can apply for anyone, right? But he really talks about like knowing your worth and knowing your value. Like, yes, it's good to help people, but if you really want to create a business, like, you'll charge what you're worth, instead of many of us are undercutting ourselves, or we don't really see what other people see within ourselves sometimes. Like, sometimes I don't know about you, but there's a lot of people that have reflected like my greatness, and they're like, oh, you're so talented, you're so amazing. And it's interesting how we sometimes need others to validate and see that for ourselves, that we don't even see ourselves sometimes. I think we're always our own worst critic. Even today, I was talking to Albert. We were talking about like just being really hard on ourselves. How many of us have been way too hard on ourselves? Raise your hand. Yeah? You too? Me too. yeah, I know we talked a lot of, about a lot of different topics today. But that's it for episode 4. Stay tuned. I'm going to try to do this more regularly. And if you have any interesting topics that you would like for me to talk about, I'm an open book. Cheers, guys.